Amazing. So I want to start this off first of all, though, before we get into like all the nitty gritty. I just want to start by saying thank you. Thank you all so much for joining and being so open. So Lara, Kendra, Keisha, I'm so grateful that each of you are here because this is really about just giving you a platform to share your authentic story, your experience, and just what you're doing. Because one of the things that I believe, and I don't know if any of you believe this, but I believe that we cannot be what we cannot see. If we don't see someone else doing something, we always imagine that it's just not going to be possible for us. And so by you coming here today and just sharing your truth and your experience and your honesty, it allows for other people to just see like, hey, maybe this is totally possible for me too. So just big love to all of you because I'm so grateful for you just to be able to show up. So thank you.
Thank you for the
you.
invitation.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that you're all here because you all have very unique stories and unique backgrounds and unique messages as well. So the way that I love to be able to do this is really I didn't even send you all questions in advance or anything. I do that on purpose because I want this to just be a really authentic conversation coming from your truth. And so what I will do is I will direct the questions to each person so that we're not all talking over each other because I know that we can all get really excited. So I will direct it and then just let you kind of just share your message. So if that works for everyone. First, I would like to start off though, and if each of you could just take a minute and introduce yourselves. So introduce yourselves proper. So Lara, I'll start with you and then we will move to Kendra and then Keisha and just have everyone kind of just share who you are and a little bit about you.
Hey everyone, I'm happy to be here. My name is Lara, and I'm saying good morning all the way from Manila. It's 2 a.m. where I
Oh,
am right now. Yeah, but you know what? I have been working on Eastern time for about 20 years now. So all good here. Anyway, so I would like to share first of all that my journey into health and wellness did not start because I was ill or unwell. It was quite the reverse. I had the great fortune of having been brought up in a family that was very focused on nutrition and fitness. So, my mother's side of the family, everyone was a chef and a baker. And so I grew up in the kitchen with real food. Believe it or not, I did not have spam. I did not have hot dogs. I grew up with raw ingredients. I had to cook it if I wanted to eat. That kind of home life, right? My dad's side of the family, he and his dad were athletes. We're talking footballers and boxers,
cool.
yeah, that kind of thing. So I grew up running. I grew up as a dancer. I was trained as a ballerina. I'm also a Latin dancer. I am turning 54 this year. I am still dancing. So the world I grew up in and the country I grew up in, Philippines, we are in Asia. We like to say we're the only Latin country in Asia, right? So we have this beautiful culture of being both Asian, Spanish, and American. The US was here for almost 50 years. And so that rich blend of culture informs my decisions, my personality, and my culture. And I've learned a lot with that kind of a background, have learned to integrate that into my professional life. I came from corporate life, and in my 50s, I have one foot in and one foot into the health and wellness space as well, which I am looking to pursue more actively.
Love that. Thank you so much, Lara, for sharing. And I think that's so cool. Like, I love that you came from a background where health was a priority because that is not often the case. I know even for me, I grew up with like, I actually never tried broccoli until I was 17 because my family just ate like canned vegetables and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So to me, I mean, this was a complete 180 in my lifestyle. I had to learn everything. Nothing was really taught to me. And it wasn't a bad thing. It was just that's just how I was brought up. That's what they knew. So I love that you had a different experience in that. And I love that you shared that. Thank you. Now, Kendra, why don't you introduce yourself and just share a little bit about you?
Everyone, my name is Kendra Richards. I'm all the way in Los Angeles, California, Sunnyvale, I should call it. But you know what? I feel like my journey was all over the place. At age 17, I was diagnosed with PCOS, and I remember my mom and my grandma, like they always tried to find all the remedies and herbs for me. But essentially, the doctor was like, oh, you need to just go on birth control. So for years, doing my bachelor's and going to school, I was on birth control. I realized like I was putting on weight, I was struggling with anxiety and all these different symptoms. And it wasn't until I was about 29 years old that I realized, you know what? I feel like this birth control is making my symptoms worse as opposed to, healing me from within. And so I made a conscious decision that I was going to start everything from scratch and, try to heal my body naturally with PC. Not thinking, okay, I want to pursue a career in health or anything. I went on after school to do insurance, like a salesperson in insurance. And I never felt fulfilled. I always felt like there was a passion in me when it comes to, helping women with PCOS because I have always had females, reach out to me and be like, hey, I saw you post this tea for PCOS and, your meal plan and all these things. And I'm like, I always feel elated, trying to help them. And one day while I was at work at my insurance job, I remember I came across the Fit Chicks advertisement for the Holistic Week. And I was like, okay, this sounds good. I feel like I need to try this. And I remember the first day was amazing. I remember I won the $100 Fit Chicks bucks as well. And that in itself motivated me. And I spoke to God. I was like, you know what? This is the path I need to take and I want to take. And this is my purpose. But I do know I need like some form of certification, to get my foot wet in the pond. So that was my journey from, business insurance and all these things to help holistic wellness now.
I love that. I love that too, because I think that a lot of people can relate to that, where, you start out in a career or in a pathway that you may not just feel super inspired by, and you're just, and even Laura and I, that was our story, right? Our story was we went to school, we went to post-secondary school, got the corporate jobs, and we'd
Yeah.
come home from work every day and be like, ah, is this it?
Yeah.
This can't be it. And it
Mhm.
was just, we were at a fitness class one day and it inspired it. We walked home from that class and we were like, we should just do that. And that was the moment. It was like, it was a split moment decision of just like, let's just see what happens. Let's just go on the other side of this and just see whatever is possible. Right. So
Yes.
that's, it just kind of happens, but you have a calling. And we talked about that the other day. I know Amber also talked about that. She was one of our graduates and she was saying, when you have a calling and you have a voice that's kind of telling you, you have to listen to the voice because it's guiding
Mhm.
you for a purpose. There's a bigger reason why you're having that message. So I love that.
Exactly.
Thank you for sharing. And I think we will talk a little bit more about sort of, what you're doing with the PCOS and stuff, because I know that that's also something that a lot of people struggle with. So
Yes.
thanks, Kendra. And now, Keisha, you're back. We lost you for a second.
Yes, I'm having a few technical difficulties. We had a snowstorm here, so my routing may be a little bit off.
Right. I think we can all relate to that. Right now, where I am, it is a deep freeze. You're not even allowed to go outside.
Yes, we've had a couple of freeze warnings as well in my area. I'm in the United States, but I'm in the southern region of the United States. And just to introduce myself, I'm Dr. Keisha Pickford. I'm a nurse practitioner, and now I love to say I'm a holistic nutrition weight loss coach. I love to say that part. And I've been a nurse practitioner for over 25 years now. And so I think I came to a point where have been doing in medicine for so long. I love taking care of my patients, but I felt like I needed to do more. And so I got on this quest for helping myself. I've been, I say, a weight loss connoisseur for all of my life. And I started on the medicines for weight loss. And when I was giving the medicines, even as a practitioner, was not given much direction. I don't think a lot of the healthcare providers realize that, you give the medicine, but, give a little extra direction when we prescribe those medications. And so I was taking the weight loss shot and just didn't have a lot of way to decide how to maneuver this. I've been, like I say, been losing weight all my life. And so I went on the quest, just perusing around on the internet, and Fit Chicks came up. I was like, oh, who is this? What is this? And so I started researching a little bit more, went on a couple of the other outlets and platforms that Fit Chicks have, and just kind of researched a few things and I said, oh, well, this sounds like maybe something I want to do. It's all natural, it's wellness, it's holistic. I'm already taking a chemical. Do I want to put more chemicals in? And so let me just try it. And I signed up and I'm glad I did because even though I'm healthcare, I had nutrition courses all throughout. Well, really not all throughout. They give us that one or two classes at the very beginning. And but I'm glad I did because it sparked everything. It's like, okay, we really need to, everybody just really needs to get back to the path of holistic wellness. And that is a better way than, even though I'm healthcare and Western medicine, the chemicals, even though we have a lot of that available, the holistic portion is what really interests me. And so I finished my certification, started right after certification. I started a small group right afterwards, got some ladies to come on board with me and finished an 8-week program. And that really got me excited. I was like, hey, they really listen. And I really got some attention. And then I became ill myself and had to have a surgery, which derailed me just a little bit. And now it was a long recovery, but now I'm back and at the beginning of this year and I'm starting again. And I just had to refine my messaging while I was on that downtime. But now I'm back again and now I'm here on this platform with you today. I'm so excited to be here and share my journey and what all I've had to overcome, even as this new title is a holistic nutrition weight loss coach.
Oh, no, that's so amazing. And it's so inspirational that, even being someone in healthcare and having a background and having this knowledge, recognizing that there was a gap. And I think that that's such an important gap to pay attention to because there's so many people that we don't even realize, like we go to a doctor and we ask questions. And I'm not saying they don't have the answers, but like you said, you only have minimal training when it comes to nutrition and when it comes to holistic nutrition specifically with medical experiences, unless it is a guide, like a specific program. Would you agree with that?
Do agree. Even the physicians I work alongside, and I'm in the emergency room setting, so we really have very limited time to teach and talk about nutrition and how a holistic lifestyle may help with some of the other illnesses or chronic diseases that people encounter. And so, it's more about, anatomy, physiology, more than it is about nutrition and wellness. Say we get those baseline classes in the beginning, but that was even before I began my medical training. It was like, as a freshman and sophomore in college, of course, who remembers that? When you get near graduation, you have those base courses and then they just don't really address it as heavy as they do with maybe going to be a nutritionist. You just get a very minimal baseline foundation course. And I was so appreciative when I came in and I've told some of my colleagues, even if I don't do this coaching thing, it really put me back in the face of nutrition and how much I really just did not know. And I was so appreciative for that foundation with you all as well. That really was a great treat teaching and learning. I know my colleagues thought I was cuckoo and it's like, what is she talking about? But I really did appreciate that part of the training and the learning.
That's amazing. Thank you. Now, I want to ask each of you, and I'll start with Lara. I want to ask, when you talk about holistic nutrition and especially holistic nutrition and weight loss, because this program is a specialization in that, when you talk about it to potential clients or to, friends, colleagues, whatever, how do you describe the difference? And I'm just always curious to know your own way of like explaining the difference between maybe what they think they know versus or when it comes to weight loss specifically, what they think they know versus what holistic weight loss really means to you. And I think each of you will probably had a bit of a different definition, but some similar foundational stuff, but probably a bit of a different definition. So I'd be curious to hear that. How do you describe it, Lara?
First of all, funny thing, many people, when they hear the word holistic, because of the word holy, they think it has to do with, shaman and these things, right? Yeah, all of these non-scientific things. And so the first thing that I say is that it has nothing to do with religion or being holy. It comes from the word holos, which is the Greek for the word whole, or complete or the entire person. And so holistic nutrition is a way of eating that makes you feel like your best complete self, right? Just as simple as that. And then I ask them, how do you feel when you're eating your current diet? Whatever it is, no judgment. It could be a standard diet, whatever country this individual is from, right? So it can be fish and chips, burger and fries, pizza, or some delicious barbecue where I'm from, right? And, no judgment. And just ask, hey, how do you feel after eating that way consecutively for a week? So it's some variation of I feel tired, I feel like crap, I'm not my best self. And depending on the age, if the woman is perimenopausal or menopausal, then it gets even worse, right? And then I said, let me know what you ate on the days that you felt your best. You were performing well at work, you felt sharp, you felt active and strong and happy. They're surprised to find out, oh, hey, I ate, quote unquote, clean and healthy, though it's an unnatural thing, right? And where I'm from, Manila is a highly cosmopolitan city. We are now known as one of the food capitals of the world. You can buy anything here. Specialty foods, ethnic foods, international. So it is not a food desert by any means. You can get anything at all. There is no excuse to make poor food choices unless it's a function of education and support. So that's the other thing, right? It's people needing support. And so I just say, hey, would you like to feel that way again? The way that you feel on your best days, that is the right way to eat. So let's talk more about that. And then I build a plan based on what they already like to eat, right? So don't go to extremes. Don't eliminate massive food groups. So I know I'm going to get bullets for this, but I've done keto. That didn't work for me. I've done the all protein, all of these fads. I've done protein shakes. They just don't work. And again, with a focus on perimenopause and menopause women, which I've found is a natural market that I've attracted, it doesn't work as well for us as it does for men, right? And so I think it's starting with what people feel comfortable with and making it easy. Start with what you have available. Find people who will support your journey. Find someone who can talk to you and you can talk to without judgment. And again, the goal here is good health and feeling good. Weight loss is just a side effect.
Oh, that was so well said. And that's like your whole pitch, right? Like that's your sales pitch to be like, hey, what was your best? How did you feel at your best? What were you eating that day? Okay, let's develop a plan based on that. Like, brilliant, simple, easy for them to understand too, because they've already had that feeling, which is the big thing. Because sometimes people don't even recognize the difference or the feeling. So you're actually calling it out of them and you're really saying to them, tell me about this, right? And putting them into the position of the driver's seat to pay attention to it. So I really love that, Lara. Thank you. And what about you, Kendra? How do you kind of describe it? Because I'm sure all of us run into those roadblocks of people going, well, what is this? What is holistic nutrition exactly? And are you going to put me on some weird, specialty foods or tons of supplements or, in your case, Lara, holy religious kind of process, right? So there's a lot of questions that come out. So what is your kind of response to that?
Okay, so when I first, ventured into the certification, I remember talking to my family about it. And I told them, like, when it comes to holistic nutrition, it starts with your mind, your body, and your spirit and your soul and everything. Everything is connected energetically. And so what I tell people, when I do like consultations or something, is that you have to love yourself. You have to be in that space where you love yourself enough in order to make that conscious decision to say, okay, I want to do better. I want to eat better. I want to drink more water. I want to, go to bed earlier. And I feel once you come with that mindset, it would be easier to build a plan upon, similar to Laura, whatever lifestyle they already have. I'm not too big on restriction either, because at the end of the day, we just want to create a lifestyle where you could eat whole foods, but still enjoy your foods at the same time without feeling, oh, the guilt behind my head. Oh, shoot, I ate pizza last night. So you know what? I have to go and do like a 20-minute workout tomorrow to work out that pizza. No, I truly explain to them that for women, for instance, as women, we do need a certain amount of carbs for our sex hormones. So restricting ourselves on these major diets, it's not serving us anything at all. So yeah, like I just feel that when it comes to holistic weight loss, you have to have the mindset to know that, okay, as a nutrition, if I want to eat healthier, I need to at least have some veggies on my plate. I always remind them, complete in three: your fiber, your carbs, your healthy fats, and your, oh my goodness, I'm forgetting the last one, your protein. I'm so sorry. All three is very, very important, and it comes as a whole on your plate to make you feel the best, you have ever felt before. So that's how I really explain it to them.
Love that. And I love that you use the complete in three. For anyone who doesn't know, complete in three is something that we teach in the holistic nutrition weight loss coaching certification. And we try to make things like simple rules, right? Simple strategies, simple rules that are easy to remember. Complete in three. You're like, okay, I got it. Protein, fiber, fat, and it's easy to explain to your clients as well so that they don't feel overwhelmed with because if you try to say to them, I need you to eat in this macro balance, they're like, say what? If you're like, eat the complete in three rule, protein, fiber, fat, and you just kind of
Yeah.
lay it out. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Kendra. And now, Keisha, same question for you. How do you kind of describe that when you come up against people questioning, what does it mean? What does holistic nutrition, especially holistic nutrition and weight loss, actually mean?
Yes, kind of similar to Kendra. It's the whole person care, whole person self, taking care of self. And where I'm from, like I say, I'm in the southern region of the United States, so it's a lot of home cooking, a lot of good southern cooking. And so when I kind of talk with clients that I've had, they just can't get out of that mind frame of, fried, deep fried, lots of gravy, lots of sauces. And so they're like, holistic, what does that mean? That means I got to go and actually, no seasoning, no nut, no anything. No, you can still make your foods taste well. We just have to get back to more natural, more close to, yes, what it did come out of the earth as, but, we have to get away from, all of that fried fatty that we're so used to here in the South. And, the holistic part, I got the portion too about, oh, so now you're going to be looking and doing what Buddha says. I'm like, no, that's not what it is. So just trying to help people to relearn and rethink about, taking care of whole self in a more natural way. That is what I try to describe to people. I can give an example as a client I had when I was introducing green smoothies, and she just thought that was the most horrible thing in the world to drink a green drink that did not come from like Minute Maid or juice or something. And describing how what she thought of a green smoothie, and of course going through kale and spinach, and she was like, that's not just right, that's not right. And so once we went through the directions of how to do everything, and she finally made one after much convincing during the program, she was like, oh, that didn't taste bad at all. And after doing the green smoothies for a while, she noticed she had dropped some dress sizes. She's like, I think that green smoothie thing may be okay for me. So, just a matter of just having people to relearn and rethink how we process or how to start taking care of ourselves in a better way. And, not to negate or get rid of everything, but just at least 80%, maybe 90% of what you do, make it more toward holistic. And for me, I try to say, you think of taking care of your mind, your body, and your soul is what I try to put into my talks and my teachings with the clients that I come into contact with. Because mind, body, and soul, that is your whole self, your whole being.
Yep. No, that's absolutely true. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's funny when you were saying, down in the South, you like a lot of battered things, fried things and stuff. I remember when I went to New Orleans for the first time, And it was the very first time in my life that I was introduced to deep fried bread, like actual, like instead of bread and butter, it's like a basket of bread on the table that was fried bread. And I was like, what is this magic? It was Laura and I there. We tried it and we were like, this is crazy, but I don't ever want to eat it again because I was like, I remember all I wanted was vegetables. I was like, I can't find vegetables anywhere at any of the restaurants and stuff. It was just like fried beans and stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, but it was so good. Everything was so delicious. But you're right. It's like, it's not as common. Well, I'm sure it is, but in the restaurants, at least that we were going to, it was very much like, it's always about like the gravies, the sauces, the fried foods and things like that. So it just made me laugh because I thought about that experience and I thought about how delicious that bread was.
Yes, we deep fry everything. I recently saw deep fried Oreo cookies, and I never thought you could do that.
Where there's a will, there's a way. That's amazing. Now, my next question for all of you too, while you were going through the course, and so Lara, I'll start with you again. I'm just going to keep kind of going in the same order because I think it's flowing really nicely. Lara, I want to know from you, when you were going through the course, was there something that and this might take you back a minute in your head because you're like, I have to remember back, but when you were going through the course itself, was there something in that moment that you learned something and you were like, oh my gosh, this has completely transformed the way that I think about this now? Like it's completely just, this has unlocked a whole new thought process or a whole new way of looking at this. I'd be curious to know if there's something specific that comes to mind for you, Lara.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, two words: moderation and balance, right? We hear that all the time. Eat everything in moderation, have a balanced diet. But I found that really very few people understand what that means and how to implement that in real life, myself included. So, I was lucky that I had grown up in an environment with whole food, home cooked food, right? But, and maybe a little too much information here, but this is where the biggest learning came in for me. Having grown up as a dancer and as a petite person, I'm only 160 meters, 50 kg. That's like 5 pounds. Okay. And that's it. That is my full adult weight. When you grow up as a child and you're in running, gymnastics, ballet, those kinds of activities, right? There is this pressure for young girls to look a certain way. More than a pressure, it's a demand. And many of us grow up carrying that with us all the way, sometimes forever. So in my teens, I actually developed something of an eating disorder to maintain my weight because there is what is called your fighting weight. There is a ballet weight, and you had to be at that weight, right? So I would eliminate entire food groups, particularly fat. Remember, this was way back in the 80s and 90s, right? Non-fat this, there was artificial fat in this. They created all kinds of low-fat cookies and really edible food-like substances that were not really food. So I fell into that and I realized that, you know what? Yeah, I'm slim, but was I really healthy? So for me, that was kind of an eye opener. And this was despite the fitness. I would say that the fitness kept me sane and healthy right through the decades until I came across Fit Chicks. And really, as I entered menopause, something just clicked in my brain. I got to revisit this whole thing. What really is the meaning? Balance, right? And so that's where the journey started. People had been consulting me about how to lose weight, how to maintain weight, how to get fit from the time I was in college. So I started cooking very early. I started cooking when I was 7 years old, started teaching cooking class when I was 8 years old. So, I was the foodie person. And I remember I could help friends healthify or veganize pretty much anything, if you want to call it that, right? But I realized that my approach was always, how can we make this low fat? How can we make this low calorie? It was always that kind of mindset. It was only decades later now, actually, that I realized, hey, how can we make this healthier, more nutritious for you and still taste great? So that really was a change in mindset. I find that it has changed my own approach and relationship with food. I changed my recipes And the recipes that I hand out for free or not for free now have this new approach. So I have original version, low fat weight loss version if that's what you need, muscle building version if that's what you need. If you're vegan or vegetarian, I make it that way as well. So I think it's that kind of flexibility that really has to be geared towards what your market needs. And that for me is the biggest learning. Any extreme is not going to work because it's not sustainable. I sustained it for 40 years, and that was damn hard, you know?
Yeah, no, and I think you're so right. There was such a huge revolution around how fat was the enemy for
Oh,
so
yeah.
long. And then it became carbohydrates were the enemy. And then eventually, I'm sure protein will be the enemy at some point soon because it basically just switches between macronutrients, right? One becomes the
Right.
star, one becomes the enemy, and then we remove it. And that kind of is how each of the fad diets kind of work if you look at
Yes.
them over the cycles. And so I love though, I love your new approach though, and recognizing, even if it is in perimenopause stage, like decades later, where you're like, wait a second, I have this new thought. What if this isn't actually healthy? Because the truth is,
Yeah.
all those low fat, low carb things are just filled. I was actually just having this conversation the other day with someone. They were talking about milk. And they said they read this article about how you should drink whole milk as opposed to this. I said, well, milk has a lot of sugar in it regardless. But I said, you're not wrong because if it's less, if anything is taken out, they put something else in to make it whole again, right? So
Sugar.
exactly. So when you have the low fat salad dressings back in the day,
Yeah.
it's just sugar, more sugar being added because
Yeah.
they got to do something and try to make sure that you like it, you want to keep eating it, and you're going to keep buying it, right? So that's the whole process. And so we had this bigger conversation around it. But I love that you share that because I think that perspective, that's a huge shift for you, especially from going from decades of disordered patterns in eating because of how you grew up to then make that shift even decades later in menopause, right? It's a powerful testament to it's never too late to change. And so I think that's a wonderful thing. Thank you for sharing. And now what about you, Kendra, in terms of the big sort of, my gosh, I never thought of it like this. I'm curious.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take you guys back to when I first got diagnosed with PCOS. Like I said, when I went naturally, I started to like take supplements. I did my own little research and I started to purchase different supplements. And yes, my body was regulated, but I still had other symptoms. And I think when we had touched on the topic of hormone balance and supplements, in the course, I remember Laura explaining about, okay, supplement is just to supplement what is possibly missing from your body. And then that was a big aha moment for me because I do know that there are different types of PCOS. So I had to go and do like a blood test to find out which type I have so I could stop, diagnosing myself and taking all these supplements and just take what my body actually needs. So I feel like that was really, really helpful for me. That was a big aha moment for me that helped me to, make a change because I believe that we're all guilty of this. We see a nice supplement online or being advertised and we want to purchase it right away. I'm totally guilty of that. But yeah, I took a step back and I started to just take what my body needs. So that was so helpful for me. And another aha moment for me was also, again, the complete and three. I always felt like, okay, you don't need to really have like a big main meal for all three meals or balance it out. I always felt like, okay, so dinner, maybe I just have like a veggie, some rice, and some chicken or something like that. And for breakfast, I skip that. Or, I wasn't hungry. And I learned that, not being hungry is, your cortisol level, your stress level is high, possibly. So, like, all of that, I took a step back and I sorted out my thoughts and I was like, okay, I have to figure out what's going on with my hormones and everything. And that's when I went to do my hormone test and, was elated. And I am so grateful for Fit Chicks Academy for really opening my eyes when it comes to, just master dosing all these supplements and all these things, thinking, I'm curing myself. But yeah, so
I have a
helpful.
question for you, Kendra. In terms of your PCOS, how are you now in terms of managing it and in terms of being able to move past that?
You know what? I could honestly tell you I am sleeping much better. After we learned about the sleeping routine class, I felt like, okay, I need to try this for myself because, again, I'm guilty of watching a show on Netflix before I go to bed, being on my phone, scrolling TikTok, all these things. But I've started to develop like a sleep routine now because I had bad insomnia with my PCOS, and I feel like I am more rested and I'm more energized in the morning time now. And also, I try to balance all my meals. I don't skip any meals anymore. I don't focus on the scale anymore. I just focus on, I remember you had taught about taking pictures, and you see like progress pictures and stuff like that. And that in itself, started to motivate me more. And, this is what I really do. I really want to help other women to understand that that number on the scale is not as important as what's in your head and in your heart that you want to change for yourself. So I have come a long way with my PCOS symptoms thanks to this certification right here.
That's amazing. I'm so happy to hear that for you. That's
Thank you.
wonderful. Thank you. And Keisha, what about you? What was that? Was there something in here that when you learned it, you were just like, this has now taken everything that I believed, or, completely just flipped everything on its back, right? Like, oh my God, I have to do this differently now.
Yes, I had several takeaway moments. I probably took everything away. But, some of the things I was making a few notes was like, look, the volume method, that was the biggest one for me. It was like, oh, I could eat all that and still, not really make a big dent into my diet plan. Being on the shot for weight loss, you just have to, learn how to eat a different way because of all the things that happen with your appetite and not really wanting to eat when the medicine is really in its active phase. So the volume method, and then of course, I'm a Southern girl, so the flexibility, those flex meals. I was like, hey, wait a minute, I can do the flex meal. And that will really, not make me feel like I'm being deprived. And then I can tell others who think, they're getting on some type of special program or weight loss program. People feel like they're going to be in deprivation. And when I found that, when I learned what you all taught about the core meals, I'm like, I never really thought about that. Okay, so this is what I can do and still stay on track. Yeah, that was a big takeaway. And then my being an emergency room nurse practitioner, I don't sleep. I rarely get sleep. I mean, we work 12-hour days, majority of us, and 3, sometimes 4 and 5 days a week. We're doing that. And so even though you're home, I'm still not sleeping. I don't know about my colleagues because I'm wondering, did I do the right thing? Did I, give the right medicine? Oh, I cut that person to do X, Y, and Z. I hope I didn't hurt them. I hope they're okay. Or, what I did as far as the procedure, it's, I'm still worrying when I get home. Of course, if anybody's out there medical, the do no harm is is what I've lived by for the last 30 years. So I'm always thinking, in that, even though I get home. And so I never sleep. I'm always up. So, but when we learned about, sleep routines and, how to make your room a certain way, how to get yourself prepared, how to make a stopping point, to be able to get your mindset, and how it, just tricks your body into thinking, okay, you've done this, so now it's time for this. So, learn that was a big takeaway for me. And then the completing three, as Kendra has been saying, I never really thought about meals that way, being on the go, getting what you can. Most of the time for me, being a healthcare person is not the right choice as far as food and nutrition. But when learning, completing three and that I'm supposed to balance or to balance the meals this way, and you could still, get your nutrition in, be satisfied, and you're not thinking about extra junk food, the vending machine, grabbing a piece of candy. If for those, like I say, in healthcare field, we have a lot of vendors that come by and drop food off in the break room, and if I've done my completing three as I should, whether it be a breakfast, a lunch, a dinner, or even our snacks are supposed to be in completing three. I'm not going for the extra that, you sometimes will think about, to get or keep yourself on the go working, or even if you're just out in the community as a lay person, not in the healthcare field. If you keep your completing three in mind, you easily are satisfied, as well as getting your proper nutrition. So I, took away a lot. And I really, came home, or came from the program and brought home a lot of things that really, being in medicine, we just don't, like I said, we didn't learn all that nutrition. And I really appreciate the nutrition piece.
I love that. And I think, you know, what I hear you saying really too is like everything, like they're all so simple. The core four, the complete and three, like it's things that you can implement so well and so easily. And you can explain it to your clients well, but also they're memorable. Like you're like, oh yeah, I remember, I can do that. I can do those things. Would you say honestly that you felt like as you were going through the course and you were learning this, you're like, this isn't just me learning anymore. This is becoming someone different. Like
It
by
it,
just
it is.
implementation of all of these things.
Yes, it is becoming a new way, a new person. I even find myself becoming a new provider, a new practitioner, especially on the persons or the clients or patients that I get to send home. When I'm talking to them at the end of a visit and we talk about blood pressure, or we may talk about blood sugar, or even something, I have a lot of PCOS clients that come into the emergency room. And we may talk about, at the end of the shift, the last question from everybody a lot of times is, okay, so what do I do? I'm going home. I don't have an emergency. You're sending me home. So what do I do? And I find myself coaching. And so I'm like, okay, so this is what we could do. You do this, your whole foods. And I teach some people, I may tell, give them a freebie. I give them a complete and three talks. And it's like, your protein, your healthy fat, and make sure you do your carbohydrates. Of course, my ladies are like, carbs, no, 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 no. And then I have to sometimes go through the certain carbs that I'm talking about, and it may not be the 100% solution for a high blood pressure or blood sugar, but at least will give them, a starting point. And a lot of patients appreciate it. Even some of the nurses that are standing next to me, they'd be like, now, where you learn all that from? When did you start talking like that? I was like, I'm a coach now. Don't play. I know how to do this now. So, and I've heard a few of the nurses, they will say, well, we're going to get Dr. Keisha in here so she can talk to you about nutrition. And I was like, no, don't put me on the spot like that, y'all. But I still will go in and talk. And like I say, it has made me a whole new provider as well as a new person. So, learning just those few things, you say they're very easy, very flexible, and, teaching patients on the go. The clients that I come into contact with, they take it very quickly. They pick up on it very quickly and easy to integrate into their lives.
Mm-hmm. No, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, I know there's a lot of questions in terms of, client retention and actually working with clients and starting your business. So I want to ask each of you, because I know you shared a little bit ahead of time. Tell me about the first client that signed with you, how quickly they signed with you, and what that feeling was like. So, Lara, I'll start with you. Like, just that, if you can take yourself back to that moment when the very first person was like, yes, hire me. I mean, like, yes, help me kind of thing. I want to hire you. Tell me about that and how quickly that happened for you right after graduation.
So first, let me make a disclaimer that my first client was not necessarily in holistic nutrition weight loss, right? So the way that I went about it was to do my entry into this world knowing what I do best, right? So I'm a dancer, I'm an athlete, and I've become certified as a fitness trainer and started immediately after the pandemic when our community was able to meet again, started as a volunteer dance instructor in my neighborhood, right? So we're talking about Zumba and exercise for seniors, etc. It evolved into Latin dance and other forms of dancing, right? So eventually I included ballet and bar, Pilates, and yoga, the things that I am trained to do. And somewhere along the way, I got my nutrition certification from Fit Chicks, right? And so that gave me the confidence to respond to questions like, how do you keep your body? I love it when they ask me my age because I like seeing the expression when I tell them how old I am, right? So, and I said, hey, guys, so there's a genetics part of it. There's an environmental part of it, and there is a physical movement. Let's not call it exercise because that turns people off. So let's say it's movement, right? And finding things to do to have fun. And it's nutrition. Again, I don't like using the word diet because it turns people off. It's nutrition. What you eat actually contributes more than your workout. You don't have to kill yourself working out. And so they started asking questions about, hey, how can I dial in my diet? What can I do? What do you eat to look like that? Right? So I started by giving tips for free. We're looking like for free for about maybe 6 months, to be honest, right? Because I had to establish credibility that I knew what I was talking about, right? The community knew me as a fitness trainer and a dancer. I'm not a physician. I had not advertised myself as a nutritionist. Legally, I can't call myself that, or a dietitian, right? I mean, I know it's different in certain countries. So I'm a nutrition and weight loss coach, so that I say. But I also had to establish the fact that, hey, I studied for this and I didn't just get lucky. There's a certain amount of learning and coaching and support that goes into this. So the invitation went out to my immediate dance class, right? Hey, ladies, why don't we get together? And this is simple, nothing complicated. It was a Zoom meeting. So some of it we did on Zoom, just coaching, just conversation, right? And then I'd send them things by email, really low tech, nothing fancy. I mean, I did not learn social media until the pandemic. So I'm not all that savvy at this point yet, right? And then there were live sessions, which was when we met in person 3 times a week. So classes are Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So it was a combination of physical fitness classes live and then the online coaching for food. And then eventually some people from outside of my neighborhood started to reach out, and I was doing some coaching and even fitness classes online as well by Zoom, by video. So it took about 6 months. And you know what? Hey, let's be honest. You may have to start by volunteering and giving it for free to establish your credibility and your commitment. Yeah. And then how it happened for me was some of them, the older ladies, and I'm really grateful. I've been listening to some of the menopause coaching sessions, and I've enjoyed that. And my market naturally evolved to include women in their 40s all the way up to their 80s, believe it or not. And so the need changed. So the diet has to change, the workouts had to change. And it's these more mature women who know what they want out of life, who want to age well, not lose bone mass, not lose muscle mass. They were the ones who first said, hey, why are you doing this for free? I'm going to pay you. Make it harder. I want to do something more serious, right? So my offering evolved from let's be honest, guys, Zumba is mostly fun. It's fun, it's community building. We're outdoors sometimes, and hey, we're having a great time. But you're not going to tone up doing Zumba. You're just not. So I started introducing weight training, bands training, Pilates, and ballet, yoga for relaxation, stress relief, and all that. And it was my more mature ladies who were my first clients. They were the ones who first started paying for it. Yeah, both live and online. So I really just wanted to share that because in my case, that market, that demographic naturally developed. I did not intentionally intend for that to happen. So I just embraced it like that. These are my ladies. These are my people. I happen to belong to the same demographic. So you know what? Let's do this journey together.
I love that. I love the natural evolution of just how things work. And to be honest, almost all of us, like even right now, when we look at our community, we look at our students coming into the academy and stuff, like I'm 46, Laura's 46. The people that are coming into our academy are on average between 40 and 65. Like it evolves. When we were in our 20s, we had 20-year-olds coming to our class. Like it kind of just evolves as you evolve, right? So thank you. Now, Kendra, same question for you.
Okay, so my story is actually very funny. So After I completed my certification in June, I started to, fine tune my website and work on it. And similar to Laura, I had always been posting on my social media, my overnight oats, my cooking videos and stuff like that. And I would have women reach out to me and ask me, like, what is that? What do you have in that? And I would give like the entire recipe and let them know, I could email you, a little bit more information about the recipe and what it does for your body, all these things, all the way up to December of last year. And so in January, it's after the holidays and everything. A couple weeks ago, I posted like my aloe water. I said, after the holidays, you want like a little detox or something like that. You could do something natural like aloe water every day. And so guy reached out to me and he was like, you know what? I want to do like a mini cleanse or something like that. And I started to ask him, his age and so forth. And he was telling me like he feel like he fell off the bandwagon for his nutrition and all these things. And I'm like, hey, I'm a holistic weight loss coach. I do this for a living. Bear in mind, this is my first client now. And he was like, hey, I would pay whatever. I just want you to coach me. And we took off from there. We had the crazy part. For my business, I wasn't planning to coach men, but I feel that by coaching him, it's been opening my eyes now that there are men out there who want to eat better and do better as well. And so our first session, we actually had like a cook-off where I sat with him online and I showed him how to do like a chicken soup from bone broth, which is more protein for him. And he loved it so much. So he got me thinking now that for future clients, I do want to have like cooking sessions as well, where we cook together and, we learn more about what we're putting into our meals and our bodies at the same time. So he's actually my first paid client, and so far, so good. I can't complain.
Cool. I
Yeah.
love too that you did it like a little cook-off because I think that's so
Yeah.
fun, right? It makes it so that the people, when you do something, you understand it from a different level, right?
Yeah,
It becomes like a knowledge base that you won't lose as opposed to just watching something. So I think that
exactly.
it's such a powerful thing to do with them because then it's like you're actually putting them
Right.
in the space in the kitchen, doing the things so that they're learning the skill, not just understanding the skills. So
And it's so funny because I was like, okay, we learn in school, you give them recipes, but he was like, I'm so nervous to make the chicken soup. And I'm thinking, how are you nervous to make chicken soup? But I was like, okay, you know what? Let's cook together. We're gonna figure it out together. And he had the time of his life. And he told me, I feel more confident now to make like some veggie soup or some chicken soup every so often. So I was like, okay.
step one, done.
Yeah.
That's amazing, Kendra. Thank you so much for sharing. And then Keisha, same question for you. What was your first client experience like, and how quickly did that happen for you after graduation?
I graduated too around the holiday season. So that was right before November or before Thanksgiving. And I was talking, hanging with family and friends and was mentioning what I was doing and getting ready to take the test. So I said, hey, I think I'm going to do a beta test just to see if I can do it and just to see what's what this is about, what I just, what I'm getting my certification in. So I actually had family and friends to actually sign up and I assigned a price and they paid. I was surprised that they paid. I was like, oh, they're really interested. And so we started in January of the coming year. Of course, we got all of our holiday eating out the way, and headed it up in January. And of course, I had to get the course set up. That was a task for me on my end to get everything, my colors, my logo, and change it over from the Fit Chicks icon and all to my business logo and colors and all. So I struggled the whole holidays trying to get everything ready for January. We started on January the 8th. I think it really wasn't like the 1st of January. It's like the first full week of January. But, they paid and, it was family and friends. And and I did separate that relationship. It's like, look, everybody, I'm the coach. And so nobody called me cousin, auntie, whatever. We are actually going to do this and get it together. And that was my first experience. And we finished the program, 8 weeks total together. I was in with them as well. And the way I have it set up is that they're able to come in, even though we had our weekly sessions, they were still able to come in and teach, I'm sorry, not teach, but chat or message me when they had questions or concerns. And then when it was something they just couldn't understand, I would come in with them on a special Zoom session. And everybody was excited and receptive. And a couple wanted to, of course, wanted to give me more, especially on a Zoom. It's like, hey, you should be charging a little bit extra, because on these personal Zoom sessions, it's just, maybe you should make that a extra fee because you're giving a lot of information during our, special Zoom session. So I would have, I ran it as group sessions during the week, but, if they had questions, I would branch out and do something Zoom. So that was my first experience. It was family and friends. But now I have a website as well. So I have people come in off of my website that I have it set up for. And I have raised my prices a little bit. So, and I have made adjustments. Attending the Fit Chicks, of course, you get your support after graduation. So attending those classes, you and Laura as well, to come in and have business-like teaching. So I was able to set up my website a little bit better, and I have more people coming in off of the website. So prices have evolved in family and friends. I have one recently just reached back out. She's like, hey, I want to do something else. And so, and I said, well, your prices are not going to be the same as the beta. And so she was like, well, you're a good teacher, so I don't mind as long as you give me a payment plan. So that was my first experience.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that. And I love that your prices have evolved. Good. Good.
Yeah.
I think that so many coaches undervalue what, like, they lower the price because they think, well, I'm new, or I don't know, and then they undervalue the impact that they're actually making. People need to invest in their health to take it seriously. If people don't pay something for it, they might not do it. So we've got to make sure that we're like, and I'm not saying you have to charge like $1 bajillion. That's not what I mean. But I mean, just like it has to be something that is in line, and it's enough that makes them go, I'm committed, right? Like they have to be on board with investing in their health to be able to do the thing. Now, I want to be very
And
mindful of timing for you guys, because I know that I feel like I could talk to you guys for hours. And also for Lara, because it's like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning now for you. I want to be very mindful of this. I'd love to be able to wrap this up and just, have you share your final thoughts with anyone who's watching right now, who's thinking, maybe I want to join Fit Chicks. I don't know. And they kind of are on the fence, and they're like, is this the right path for me? What would you say to someone who asked you that question, Lara?
I would say, what is your reason for doing this? What is your why? Right? Like Simon Sinek says, you need to have a goal that will be solid and last you a long time. You going on a diet, let's call it that, right? Not a nutrition program, but many people say, oh, I need to go on a diet or need to lose weight because I want to fit into my wedding dress in 2 months, or I have my high school reunion in 4 months and I need to look fantastic. See, I accept that. Those are valid reasons. But guess what? How about I want to see my child graduate from medical school? How about I want to be able to get up off the floor? I want to get down on the floor, play with my grandchildren, and get up without my bones creaking all over. I want to be able to spend time with the people I love, open my house, invite people in, live independently into my later years because I can. So I'd say that getting your nutrition, I use the word right because that sounds a little bit judgmental for some. Getting good fit for nutrition and a movement plan that works for you and makes you feel good. And I'm recommending not just the nutrition and weight loss program, but the entire fitness thing, the entire coaching thing. So that includes relaxation and mindset, social support, all of these things, having people to talk to. Have a long-term reason for doing this. You got to love yourself first, right? As Keisha says, you got to fill your cup before you can share anything with other people. And I want to share as a last thought, I am a heavy consumer of health and wellness podcasts. And there's always something new to learn every day. Things that we thought were true 5, 10 years ago are evolving. And there's always something new. You just need to challenge it. Things are changing. You got to learn more, right? And you got to find a right fit for yourself and your clients as well. So something that was really beautiful this morning. This was on Dan Buettner's show. Dan Buettner is of the Blue Zones fame, right? So he has a podcast. And one of his guests said something really inspirational. To have a good life and live well, you need four things: something to do, something to look forward to, someone to love, something to give. I think, you know, those are long-term reasons that will serve you. And if you find that and you find this program to be a good fit, go for it. I would say it's absolutely been worth it.
Thank you so much. That was so beautiful. And I love those four things. They're so true. Lara, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And now, Kendra, same question for you. What would you say if somebody right now is kind of uncertain? Is this the right path for me? Is the Chicks Academy the right program for me? How would you explain to them, or what would your feelings around that be? What would be your insights?
Okay, so for me, what really stood out with Fit Chicks Academy was when we had the holistic week. And Laura had mentioned that Fit Chicks Academy is the only academy that specializes in the weight loss aspect with the nutrition as well. So that really stood out for me. And if anybody is even thinking about it, you do it for yourself. You know what I mean? Even if you don't want to venture into coaching in the future, do it for yourself, because at the end of the day, we eat food every day. Food is evolving. They're making, biodegradable meat in labs and all these different things now. So I feel like if you're not going to do it for coaching, still do it for yourself. I had suffered from imposter syndrome because when I signed up, I was like, okay, I'm going to learn about, holistic weight loss and all these things for my PCOS. I'm not too sure about coaching, but I do want to help women. And I remember all the women, we were like, oh, I feel like I'm not good enough. I'm not ready. All these different things. And that really had resonated with me. And I must say that knowing that I wasn't alone motivated me even more to know, okay, like Laura had said, start even when you're not ready. And I valued, perfection and all these things. And attending Fit Chicks Academy changed my entire mindset. And I'm so grateful for that. And ladies, if you're thinking about it, there's a reason why, like Laura had mentioned, there's a why there. And you sit with yourself and you ask yourself, okay, this is intriguing me. This certification is intriguing me. Why is that? Maybe you want to have a baby in the future. Maybe you want to lose 10 pounds, So I just say go for it. And if it's meant for you to be a coach as well, go for it. Even when you're not ready, like me, because I felt like I wasn't ready, but I jumped in the fire and so far I can't complain.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And
Wow.
Keisha, same question for you.
Yes, I would say again, as the other ladies have said, just know your why. Why would you want to do something like this? I personally got in it to do weight loss a different way. I've done just about everything you can think of to lose weight. The medicines are new for me to try now. But I didn't want to mess up again. And I looked at the program and thought it was wonderful. It focused, a lot on women. It was, the holistic nature. And it was, what I was looking for at the time for myself, just personally. And, that person, and I was a little on the fence as well. You think about the price, the cost, what am I going to get out of it? Will this be something I can use later, in life, and can I help others with it was another, being, of course, I say healthcare, helping others, what could I turn it into something I can help others with? And so that's all the things that I was considering, and maybe you can as well. And I would say, a lot of things we do and we don't even think about sometimes, we just do it. So just go into it and, don't think about it. Just do it unapologetically and just branch off into something new, especially if you have that that earning, I know there's something in this world on earth I need to be doing. And it's more than what I have going on now. How can I contribute? How can I give back? How, the humanity part of yourself, just think about that. If you're trying to improve yourself as well, which was my goal, is to make myself better. And then as I got into it, I was like, well, hey, this is too good just to keep for myself. I can share this with others. I mean, they're giving so much good information, so many things that I thought I knew, I really didn't know. I mean, I thought I knew how to do it, but I don't know how to do it. And that's the way I went into it. And then when you do, give yourself grace. Don't pressure yourself. Don't rush into it. And just think, be mindful of, hey, this is a life changing for my health, my wellness. And then when you get into it, you're going to see how you can help others as well, is what I did. It was for me personally. It was a lot of money for me, but when you're serious, you do what you want to do. And, we find money for everything else. Why not find something to enrich your life? And in the process, once you start into the academy, you will see how you can definitely help others and build something that will help others and leave your mark on the world.
Well, that was so well said. Thank you so much. And thank you all so much. And thank you to everyone who showed up here today. I know that there's a bunch of people who had to jump off for work and some other people who messaged, but I just want to say, I really respect each and every one of you. And I really am just so grateful that you blessed us with your message, with your story, that you showed up here today to just help other people see what's possible, because that's really what it's about, right? Fit Chicks Academy, we are one of the core beliefs that Laura and I have is creating a community that is about supporting each other, about lifting each other up, about just being there to ensure that we are making the world a healthier, happier place. Oh, I'm getting emotional. My eyes get teary sometimes when I talk about things like this. My daughter laughs at me all the time because I get very emotional lately. But it truly means so much, because if we don't share our message and show what's possible, then it's, you know what I mean? Like, we're not allowing other people to see, like, they can literally put themselves in your shoes and see, like, oh my gosh, like I could volunteer some time just like Lara, or I could, as a nurse, I could really help people in a different way. Or Kendra is saying, you thought you were going to work with women, now you're working with a man, and you're like, oh my gosh, like it's working, right? It's all works. It's like you didn't even recognize that there's other people in your community that needed you, right? And so I think that that's such a powerful thing, and it's such a beautiful thing. So thank you, every single one of you, for sharing and for showing up today. I'm going to take a picture of us because I want to make sure that I solidify this in history. So everyone get ready to smile. I've got to hold up my camera like this because my print screen doesn't work well. So I'm going to do it like this, and then we're going to just zoom it in. But we're just going to take a photo. Amazing. And yeah, I just want to say thank you again. I know everyone in the chat was saying thank you as well. I'm so grateful to every single one of you. I will make sure that you all get the recordings. For everyone who's watching, I will be sending out the replays. So if you want to check it out, if anyone missed anything, you can definitely check it out. Lara, thank you so much for staying up. I know that you said you're used to these time zones, but I still know that this is literally in the middle of the night. And I know if I was in your position, I probably wouldn't be doing that.
I really enjoyed it. I'm glad to be here with everyone.
No, and I'm so glad that all three of you got to connect as well. But thank you all for taking time out of your busy days to be able to share this. And Ian wanted to know if I can share your pages. And we're going to be sending out the replay. When we do, we're going to send out all of the information for each of our guests today. So you'll be able to connect with them as well. Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. And I will be in touch with each of you. Okay.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Take care.
No,
right.
thank you. It's so nice to meet you all, and we'll see you soon. Okay.
Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye-bye.